Hey, it's Marilla Manelli, and today I'm gonna show you how to do this bold face frame, perfect for anybody who likes to wear their hair curly or straight, using all Kenra color. Now let's go ahead and get started. First things first, we're gonna go right into the consultation, learn a little bit more about my model's wants, and just kind of see where she's at with the tone that she desires. So tell me a little bit about your hair.
My hair is curly naturally, pretty wavy, so it's very light, and I've always been looking to get some fresh colors, maybe around my face, but still keep it somewhat natural.
Okay, awesome. Do you normally style your hair curly every day?
Yes.
Awesome. And as far as brighter around your face, what were you thinking about doing?
Maybe just frame it so it pops out with the darker base and around the face, like makes me look a little younger.
Okay, so something more of like a bolder face frame, maybe some low lights in the back?
That would be great.
Awesome. So now that we have a better understanding of exactly what my model would like to achieve, we're gonna go in with a pretty bold face frame here. And in order to do that, we're gonna go ahead and section her out. And what I like to do is just kind of see where the hair naturally falls. She does wear a center part all of the time, and we also have to consider her natural texture as well. So what I like to do is just kind of see exactly where the hair naturally likes to split and what likes to fall forward, because that's what's going to be framing her face. And a great way to do this too is sometimes combing the hair out and then pushing it up. You'll see naturally where it starts to split right there. So once you've determined where it starts to split, I'm just gonna go in with a really shallow zigzag, but I'm gonna make sure to come right behind this ear because usually people have lower density here, and since she wants something pretty bold, I'm gonna come a little further back just to incorporate that hair. And then I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side. So the reason why I decided to go in with a zigzag section is because I don't want to create really hard lines between the front and the back. I want to soften that line, even though this is going to be nice and bold, and plus this is going to complement her natural texture when she styles it curly. So for the front, we're going to focus on some really bold teasy lights throughout, and for the back, we're going to deepen this a little bit with some low lights, and then also bring up just a few highlights, so that way we can bring up this old blonde just a little bit higher, but something really subtle. We want to keep a lot of depth going on in the back. And what I'm doing here for the side is splitting this right around this recession line here. So essentially we're going to have 3 sections in the front. So 1 on each side and then 1 right down the center. Usually this section right here has lower density, so I feel confident in just going ahead and taking this as 1 entire section, although if you are working with somebody who has high density, I would split this into 2. I also want to keep this rooted because she also mentioned that she would like a natural finish, and I like keeping the depth inside around the hairline because that's what's going to make it natural, going from that dark into the light. So I'm going to take this entire section and I'm gonna tease right on up. And I'm really just focused on those little baby hairs on the interior. That's the hair that I wanna keep dark. So that's what's gonna keep it nice and rooted and give me a seamless finish. For her highlights, I'm gonna be using Simply Blonde Beyond Bond Lightener at a 1:2 mixing ratio with 20 volume developer. And I wanna make sure to saturate these ends. Now she does have previous lightened hair here with her natural going on, and this is the reason why I'm using Beyond Bond, because I want that extra little cushion and protection for myself when doing this technique, so there is going to be some overlap. One thing to note is if you are going to be doing this technique by grabbing this pretty large section is to bring the hair forward. Now the reason for that is because when we insert this board here, the highlights on the underside are living a lot closer to her hairline and further away towards the interior by over directing it towards her face. If I did it the opposite way, the highlights would live a little further away from her hairline. So just kind of keep that in mind if you are gonna do this technique, because overall I am doing a pretty high saturation all the way up. I also like to open the hair up by just pushing the brush side to side. This is just gonna ensure for maximum saturation with your lightener. So for this top section here, I'm going to keep it still slightly rooted, but she has a lot more hair density right on this top section. So I am gonna have to split this up. I don't wanna take one big chunk like I did with the sides. So in order to get this started, I'm just gonna pull some hair forward. Now she does have a very uneven hairline here, so I'm not too worried about that. So just take like a, shallow zigzag section just to kind of get it started. So I'm gonna actually do 2 of these back to back with no hair in between. And I'm just gonna do a slight little push back. I just kind of want to remove these little baby hairs. This is what's going to keep it nice and natural because she has that curly hair. And I usually start by saturating just a few, like an inch or so away from the hairline. And then just to create a little bit of a softer line of demarcation, I stroke up my lightener. This just makes it for a much softer grow out. And I'm not taking any hair in between here. I'm simply combing this up and weaving this right on down. And doing these highlights back to back is essential for me because I'm creating 2 zigzagged sections here. So this zigzag line is what's going to create that softer line of demarcation in addition to me stroking my brush up. And even though these 2 foils are living next to each other, the line of demarcation is going to be uneven. I want that. I want that slight little tiny bit of depth. So versus if I were to take 2 slices, the slices would create a very hard line. Once I have my 2 sections here, this is where I'm gonna start to incorporate a little bit of hair in between each of my foils. So this is about 1/8 of an inch section, and I'm gonna take this hair and weave right on top of it. So I'm just gonna do a little baby light. And this is gonna be my dropout. So this is the first foil that has that hair in between. And I'm gonna just lightly tease this, nothing too crazy. And again, weave right on top of that. I'm just doing a little baby light. So overall, what we're creating here is bright into a little bit of depth. So now I'm on my very last section, and I'm just gonna bring this down again and baby light right on top of that and tease it. So this very last one, I like to tease it a little bit more than what I did in here. It's just, again, that gradual tease, that gradual depth that we're introducing. Okay, so now that we have all of her face frame complete, I'm now gonna mix up my second color for the back. which is gonna be a low light. So I'm still gonna keep my bowl of lightener because we are gonna put a little bit of tiny micro lights through here, but the main priority is to add the depth in the back. For her low light formula, I'm gonna be using Kenra Color Demi-permanent, 1 ounce of 7B and ½ ounce of 8GB, 1:2 mixing ratio with 9 volume developer. And I chose this formula because I wanted something that complemented and also looked slightly similar to her natural base, but also something that was going to richen it up just a little bit. Now what I see back here is she has lots of depth going on from the occipital down, so I'm not too concerned with adding a low light there. So I know my point of origin of where I should start is right where the head starts to curve, so right above the occipital. So in order to get that started, I'm going to create some diagonal back zigzags. And again, I'm doing these zigzags because it's going to give me the most natural end result because of the natural texture that she has going on. So the reason why I'm going in with these diagonal backs is so that way it gives me kind of the best of both worlds of a vertical and a horizontal placement. It's gonna give me more coverage for the back, so it's gonna veil over the entire back section. And from here, I'm just gonna take another zigzag section right underneath that zigzag. So there's zigzags on both sides. And I'm going to take some chunky weaves. Now I'm taking chunky because I want it to be chunky. I want it to be these bold ribbons of dark in the interior. And again, I'm just gonna slightly push that up, nothing too much. Everything I'm doing here is really subtle. And I'm applying my low light formula the same exact way I would do my highlights, but they are more rooted because she already has this natural depth going on here. We're just trying to darken all of those light pieces on the bottom. And then I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side, taking a zigzag on the top and on the bottom, and then doing that chunky weave. So you can take like 4 to 5 weaves in this back section. I'm just kind of pushing those little baby hairs out of the way. I also decided to switch up the size of my foils just because it makes it go by so much quicker, and I'm also working on a much more wider area. So I do like using a wider foil for that. From here, I'm gonna take a horizontal section to kind of bring these two sections together, and then we're gonna continue on with that same exact pattern. The reason why I chose Demi-permanent over permanent is because I wanted an ammonia-free option since we are depositing only. If I wanted a little bit more of a base shift or some brightening effect, I would have went in with a permanent shade as my low light. Now that we're on the top of her head, right where her head starts to curve, that parietal ridge, we have a lot of blonde going on here. So I want to make sure that my sections are nice and deep and I still have those chunky weaves going on. But you can really see here like how much grow out she's had from these previous highlights. So that's kind of what we're breaking up here. We want to soften a lot of this blonde. So when applying your demi-permanent, the same rules apply with your saturation. So if you are working with really thick sections like I am, just make sure you're opening that hair up with your brush. This is how you're gonna make sure that you're getting the right amount of saturation, you're getting all sides of the hair. Because the last thing you want is a really spotty low light, which happens a lot when you're working with porous hair. And she does have a little bit of porosity issues going on down at the bottom, but I want to make sure that I have that even saturation going on. So that's the most important part when you're doing a low light. So I'm gonna do one more zigzagged horizontal, completing 6 foils throughout the back. So this very last horizontal section, again, is just to kind of bring all of this placement together. And essentially too, this is separating the back from the front. Now that I have the back done, we're gonna move on to the very top, and we're gonna change directions. I'm actually gonna go in horizontally from the side, and the reason why I'm gonna choose this placement is because it's gonna give me that blanket coverage and the most natural end result. I don't wanna create chunks or stripes since she parts her hair down the center. I really wanna make sure that everything that sits right here on top is really soft and diffused. So these subsections here are gonna be about 1 inch wide, so much more shallower than what we did back here. These were very wide subsections. And this is where I'm gonna start incorporating my micro lights, and I'm still gonna put the low light right behind it. So what that's going to do is a couple things. We're gonna be bringing some of this blonde up a little bit really subtly, but we're also gonna be adding in a lot more depth than what's going on down here. So I just want like the tiniest little bit of highlight. And I am leaving these ends out because they do look a little bit more fragile. And then when this is close to being done, I'm actually gonna pull this foil out and then drag the lightener at the very end just to kind of shift out that old toner. Now, once I have that highlight put in, I'm then gonna take this section here and we're gonna do, again, another deep zigzag. We're gonna tease this softly, then we're going to do those chunky weaves again. So again, we're adding in that depth with the Demi-permanent. Now, typically your Demi-permanent can process 5 to 25 minutes, but if you happen to go over that 25 minutes, it's not going to over deposit or get really dark. The only time you really need to be concerned with the amount of deposit on your highlights or lowlights is when you're working with highly porous hair, and that's where I would definitely recommend using something like porosity equalizing spray, just to prepare the hair for a big color change like this. So continuing on with the side of the head here, I'm gonna take another inch section, another zigzag right here, and then do a really tiny little baby light or micro light, just something really tiny. We don't want anything super bright here. I just want that little subtle bit of kiss of blonde here. So I'm actually gonna take this entire section here, do my light little tease, just to get those little shorter hairs kind of out of the way. Again, this is gonna help me with that rootedness that I wanna create. And I'm gonna take some really chunky weaves for that low light. The overall goal is to have very little dropout with this low light, because I'm trying to put in as much depth as possible here, but without making it one solid color. So I have a total of 4 little baby lights right here on the sides going horizontally. So now I'm left with this little section right here on the very top, which is right down the center. And since this is going to be falling over the rest of her hair, I want to make sure that I have enough depth going on. So in order to achieve that, I'm just gonna take this section, we're gonna tease it and add our low light. So that's how we're gonna finish this, because the depth is the priority. So these little baby lights, they're just gonna be poking through right underneath these low lights here. So I just split it in two. If it's a smaller working section, you definitely can, you know, make it one big section, but just something to consider if you're trying to blend in some blonde that's living really high, you know, you want to consider the over direction of that hair. So that's primarily why I'm just splitting it in half. I want to make sure that I get the depth in the same space on each side of her head. So now I'm done with the application of her highlights and lowlights. We're just gonna process her for about 20 minutes, and then I'm gonna check her face frame that we have going on here, maybe reapply if necessary. You just wanna keep a really good eye on that area so that we have the right amount of lift. And I'm just gonna let her process, and then we'll come back and do her final toner. For her final toner, I decided to go in with Kenra Color Demi-permanent, equal parts of GV and Beige Rapid Toner, 1:2 mixing ratio with 9 volume developer. Now that my model's hair is completely finished and beautifully toned, I'm gonna prep her hair with the Pearl Detangler. Now I love the Pearl Detangler just because it adds a little bit of moisture, and I love the combability factor to it, and it's perfect for hydrating curls, especially curls that are finer texture like hers. Next, I'm gonna layer in the curl defining cream with just a few pumps. And I love curl defining cream because it has a hold factor of 5. And it's really lightweight, but it defines the curls without the crunch. Once I have the curl defining cream evenly distributed throughout her hair, I'm now going to diffuse it with my blow dryer. Usually when my client has a curly hairstyle, I like to have them lean back so their head hits the very back of the chair. So it's a little bit more comfortable for them, but also their hair is able to drape down, allowing me to further shape and scrunch it into place. And I'm gonna get the maximum amount of volume with the diffuser. Another tip is to make sure that your blow dryer is on high heat and low speed. Now that you got a look at what her hair looks like curly with this bold face frame, now I'm gonna show you what it can look like straight. So that's what I love about this placement, is that it's very versatile for somebody that likes to wear their hair with both textures. So in order to prep her hair for a smooth look, we're gonna go in with the blow dry spray, and this is just gonna speed up my blow dry time, and it also has argan and jojoba oils in it, so it's really moisturizing and hydrating for her hair. I love Kenra Volume Mousse. This has a hold factor of 12. It's gonna give me a medium hold, and this is actually a really great mousse, perfect for a voluminous blowout. So I start out by using a generous amount and just kind of raking it through her ends, and then building it right towards the top. So you can really put this mousse everywhere. So don't be afraid to use a good amount in your hands. Now that our roots are almost dry, I'm gonna go ahead and continue to round brush the rest of her hair, stretching out this curl with a round brush. And that completes our bold face frame when her hair is blow dried straight. So I really hope you enjoyed this hair tutorial, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe. And comment down below which look you liked best, curly or straight. And if you like videos like these, be sure to check out the other hair tutorials right here on this channel, and I will see you in the next video.